How's it, everybody? Welcome to the Positive Hour. This is a new podcast that me, Travis, Nate, and Ronnie is trying to put together to come with positive content on any ideas that come up or any topics. Today's topic, since it's our first podcast, is to talk about good and bad things about people and trying to flip the bad things around to turn it in a positive way to give people a different aspect at life. To start off, Ronnie, you have anything to say?
Me and Nate was talking about it yesterday, how the good and bad is needed in life for you to actually even improve. Because by taking the bad, if you notice how things are, if you take it in a positive way, your bad traits of yourself and try to improve on it. You know what I mean? Because if you're all good and you feel like everything about you is good, then you'll never even look to empathize with anyone else who has. Yeah, I don't know how that works.
You mean like a negative trait kind of deal?
Kind of.
So like, maybe Nate can give an example, for instance.
Yeah, like when you go through bad, you gotta go through bad because that's how you have a lesson. And some people may have the same bad as you. And then when you get through it through positive reinforcement, or a friend helped you through it, or religion, or whatever you think is, when it's out there, every bad complements the good. So if you cannot reconnect with anyone who is suffering from something that they're living that is bad, say drugs, alcohol, abuse, unless you went through it yourself. Like if you're going through things and you need my help, but I cannot connect with you because I have no idea what you're going through. I don't know what bad you're going through. I don't know if you drinking. I don't know if you stealing or anything that. If I myself didn't do the same thing as you would never listen to me. The good outcome is it. Even if I didn't go and did the same thing as you, it's the listening ear that allows people to open up and to change. Somebody cared about me. Somebody wanted to hear me out for a change. So in essence, you need some bad because you need to have a lesson learned after it. If you don't go through bad times, you will never understand your neighbor who has a bad time. And then if you go against a bad time, you don't know how to come out of it. So the important thing is there is balance, but good always has to prevail. Because if you do not prevail over the bad, it's like a cycle. You want the good in your life to continue to cycle more than the bad. You want a positive outcome. Hence, this is why it's called the positive hour. But you also have to be able to relate to someone who is struggling with the bad in their life.
That's definitely true.
What do you think?
No, I definitely agree. I think if you never went through something, you can't put yourself in that same situation as that person because you never know what it's going through. It's definitely true. I mean, but people I think also have to, at the same time, have to what's the word? Be patient, I would say, with people on certain things going through it and sympathize. Because a lot of times I notice that, for me, for instance, I never have that sympathy towards people on things. It'd be like, how come you can't even, what's the problem? You just get it over with. You just do it. It's mind over matter until you go through some kind of situation. Then you start seeing like, okay, I kind of see why they have that bad tendencies, if that makes any sense. I don't know if that makes any sense at all, but in my mind, it kind of makes sense. So I usually look at, for instance, if a person had a bad trait of they were always stealing something or taking something, and instead of looking at it as like, this guy's just a thief, why did this person take something? And maybe it was they never had all these things, and they don't know what to do, but they know they want it, and the only thing that they know how to do is to just take it because that's the only way they can acquire it, instead of maybe just asking, could I have this soda, or could I have this food, or or whatever it may be, they just was never taught that piece. I mean, granted, in real life, you would go to jail or get arrested, but that's beyond the point. What we're trying to do is trying to figure out what that is and try to look at it. Because plenty of times you can see a lot of people with that bad intent or have that bad intentions, and you see it happen, but they never get caught. I don't know if that makes sense, but that they don't ever get caught. But as a friend or somebody that's there, you can actually see it. And what you can try to do is maybe swing it and explain it to them, like, hey, instead of you doing this, that isn't such a great idea. Why don't you do this and still get the same outcome? Now, granted, you can lead the horse to the water, but you can't make it drink.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Well, that makes a lot of sense.
So, I mean, as we're looking at stuff like this, we should be pointing out, I mean, like they say, you can do 10 good things or 100 good things, but you do that one bad thing, it's game over. You're just labeled as that bad thing.
True.
And that's the bad thing about society is that they label you for that bad thing. Where we're supposed to have compassion with that bad thing. Expound the bad thing. Like help that person get over the bad thing as fast as we can as a unit. That's why they say that saying, it takes a village to grow a child. Vice versa, it takes a village to help a bad person. Now, if I only tell you, yeah, it's okay, get over it, but don't show you how, or at least be with you in the bad, you may never learn anything. You may never do anything. People are very visual. People are very, I like see before I do. I like see if you only waha or you only talking or you actually gonna go there with me. That's why it's an uncommon thing for people to help people in their bad times. People rather avoid that because they're dealing with their own bad. But that's why if you are empowered and you've been through it, you should, and I believe it, for me, you should be able to have even more patience with that person. Because if you do not have patience, that person will be like, this guy fake. And he may tell you what you want to hear. Yeah, I'm getting better. Yeah, but then you see it in his actions. You see it how he talk or how he reveal himself, how his posture, how his demeanor. That you can always tell from then if that person is still struggling, whatever is keeping them bad. Yeah, what do you think, Ron?
I mean, because that bad trait or whatever it may be, you can always, there'll be times where you fail. You're not gonna always, like once it's not gone forever. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's a daily or sometimes hourly struggle. Whether it be an addiction or even a character trait that you wanna get rid of or that you wanna change in your life. Like for instance, being judgmental, right? That's especially in society today. Everything is judging people or grumbling or anything like that. Anything, being negative is something.
It's like a trend.
Trying to switch it to the positive, which we're trying to do, or we're hoping to do, isn't something that's easily accomplished. Because you gotta catch yourself. A lot of times you can catch yourself midway through, or you'll catch it afterwards.
But the damage is done.
Yeah,
The
but I
damage is
think
done.
in the end, as long as you reflect and understand, like, okay, yeah, you know what, okay, at this time I didn't catch it early, and that, you know, that's okay. I'll try next time. And
Let me expand on this a little bit more. So here, for instance, right, it's always easy to do the bad and see the bad in somebody and talk downwards to them and keep them like that. It's easier because it's a wall. So when you have a lot of bad in your life, it's like a fortress you create to protect yourself from getting hurt. It's a defense mechanism.
Okay.
That is a defense mechanism. That's why it's innate in us. It is in our nature to be good and bad because the bad protects us from getting hurt more. Does that make sense?
That makes
if,
sense.
If I was hurt by my father or whoever talked to me any kind, I may be aggressive towards people because I don't like that person talk to me. And then that's why the cycle is is if you have to break that. It's very hard to be good because nobody wants to take the time to pull somebody else out of their struggles and out of their bad when they have their bad themselves. Because like I said, some people get PTSD, some people get anger issues, some people got abused, whether it's, physical or mental. That's when you're talking to somebody to try to pull them out of the bad, that's where you have to see yourself. And if you cannot show an ounce of empathy or ounce of care no matter how aggressive they get, then you should not talk to that person. You should refer him to someone else. Because if you're making it worse. Because the bad guy in his mind already, he's playing the defense. Say, for instance, Ronnie not listening to me. He just hearing me out. He pretending. For me, I have plenty bad. I look at eye contact. If nobody can give you eye contact looking left or right, they're not paying attention to you. And if you look when you talking any kind, or you're getting knots when you're talking, you look at the eyes. You look at the demeanor. You can tell they're going to tense up. That means they're uncomfortable.
Fold their arms.
Or they're going to look up to the left, or they're going to look up to the right. And if they did not come with a response right off the bat, they're not listening. So people who are bad and people who cannot get over it, they look for that kind of tendency because they're the type who will be like, I told you not listening. But when you do listen, you throw them off guard. And that's the good. Because you want them to rub, you want them to friction for every cause and effect. It's a pendulum, right? If you keep giving bad, it won't stop. The bad will never stop. But if you're good, no, bro. Enough, bro. What's wrong? But you gotta stand strong and not let them break you. That's good with positive reinforcement. But if you feel he's bad, nothing. Try to make him pendulum. It will never stop. Same with your bad. Same with your good. If you constantly put good, that's how you stop a cycle. Is being the opposite of that feeling. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
What do you think, Trev?
No, definitely. That makes total sense. Because, I'm prime example. For work, for instance, I have no patience. And I used to I would tell guys, you suck big time. And I'd push it in your face and I would just show you that I could just obliterate you at whatever it is. But that was my mindset. And I know what it came from. It came from when I was a little kid. Had people that always doubted me, picked on me. And I just flipped it as I got older, which was great. But it was not great because I would do more harm to people than good. But in my mind it's because you're weak-minded. That was straight up. Like I would do whatever. Ronnie, we used to do it when we would lift. I would be like, oh yeah, okay, you did 225 more than me. Let's just do 135 and see who can do it the most. And I would sit there and I would in my mind, I would tell myself, whatever he does, I'm going to do 20 more. It did not matter to me. And of course it was a good thing at that time in my mind. I don't know if that makes sense. But it was a good thing in at that time in my mind, which I still think everybody should still have that mindset. Maybe not saying it out loud, but maybe quietly. It's always great to have competition, but I did that on everything. If it was lifting, if it was playing music, or if it was when it was doing electrical, whatever I did, I was always competing, which was great. But then I would always flip it to where I would tell them, oh, you may be better than me right now, but you give me some time and I'm going to smoke you. And then when I would smoke you, I would push it in your face. Like, come on, is that all you got? Which was totally wrong. Which at that time I seen it as totally right because I was just so competitive. But now that I got older and better with it, instead of telling them you sucked, when I see the things that's wrong, I try to correct it. I'm human. But I try to correct it where it's not so negative compared to what I did before, when I would just be reaming you and just bashing you into the ground and make you feel like dirt. Now, I do that. I try that. And sometimes you have to shock people even though it's not positive. You still have to sometimes shock people, because sometimes nobody learns until you actually get that surprise. You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to ever have that. Think about it. Anything you ever did, don't touch the stove when you're a little kid. And you were just like, oh, no, I'm not going to get burned. Until the one day you went up there and the stove was hot. And you don't put your hand on the stove no more. Sometimes that has to be in place. And it could seem like it's negative, but it's actually a positive reinforcement. But to know where it sits is very hard, because especially nowadays, as the generations are changing, you're noticing that they're not as thick-skinned towards any constructive criticism. They're all worried about, what does my Instagram look like? So, I mean, what is unfortunate is that actually comes down to parenting and just throwing them on a tablet or just giving them what they want. But what we have to try to do is maybe bring it back a little bit. Take it back to maybe teaching them that, there's going to be good and bads, positive, negatives, however you want to word it. But regardless, is letting them learn how real life's going to be. Because if you look at anything that's going on in the world right now, or even on top YouTube or whatnot, like 95% of everything is fear-mongering stuff, or, negative things, regardless of what it is. So, like, maybe we should try to step back and try to look at it. Start it from the parenting point of view. You still got to give them tough love with maybe like Nate, how you used to say is like, when the kid is not listening and you have to discipline them because they're not listening. So like, don't touch that candy or whatever it may be. You know what I mean? And then you tell them, if you touch that candy, I'm going to spank your hand. After you give them that spanking, instead of just yelling and making them feel belittled, you explain to them, you show them that you're mad for a little bit, to let them know that you're upset with them. And then maybe going from that point, switching it from there to, like you said, shortly after, just tell them, Dad didn't want to have to spank you, but because you did this action and it's not correct, I had to do this, but I still love you. Positive reinforce it, but still letting people know, or the child know, or whoever know. I mean, not going to spank an adult, but put it that way so that maybe that can start helping them mentally prepare for things. Because without preparation for anything that's coming up through verbal or getting anybody ready for certain things, it's like walking into a dark room, but you don't know what the hell's on the ground. So my aspect is, like I said, is I went through that. I did it. Sometimes I wish I maybe did some things different. And I do know I rub a lot of people the wrong way. And before, my attitude was like, yeah, whatever. I mean, it's not like I'm going to lose sleep on it, but I'm way more conscious now, or I try to be, not saying I'm perfect, to try to do that as best as I can.
That's all you can do.
I mean, that's all. I mean, that's just my stuff. But coming from somebody that I did it, I did it to people, like, so I know, hands down, it would be straight competition and smash you, and I just didn't care. And that's a mentality that's great, but to know how to harness it, you can do a lot of harm. You know what I mean? Like, if we're not doing it right and you do it to the wrong person, they're just gonna go down a rabbit hole. Compared to if you have a strong-willed person or a strong-minded person, they're more willing to accept it, but not everybody is that way. And a lot of people are gonna fake that they're strong-willed, and then behind closed doors or with other people, oh, he's not nice. You know what I mean, right? Or, well, yeah, he says this, but it's blah, blah, blah. And they're going to say negative things. So, I mean, granted, do what you do. What is it? What was I saying? Damned if you do, damned if you don't, right? I mean, it's going to happen, but trying to be mindful to motivate people in a positive way will better the odds. No matter what you do, there's always going to, like you said, there's always a action for every reaction. You know what I mean? Or every reaction has an action. But you can't make everybody happy, but what you can try to do is come from a positive place on it. Granted, people will take it in their own views. It might be like, you might be coming from a positive part and be like, but Nate was yelling at me. He wasn't yelling at you. He's just very enthusiastic about it and trying to let you know what to do. But like I said, everybody's different. It's remember this is, if you don't have the will to want to do anything, you're going to stay exactly where you're at, no matter what. You need to have the will, because, you know what I mean? people can tell you everything, but if you're not willing to make that move on dieting or exercising or even just trying to take the next step, waking up 5 minutes more earlier to get to your time, if you're not willing to take those little parts with your own personal will, you will never progress no matter how much positive things you're trying to go through. Because like they say, you only can walk the horse to water, but you can't make them drink. It's the same process. We're not going to push your head into it. If you don't want to drink that water as we're pushing your head down, which we shouldn't be doing, eventually you're gonna just dehydrate and die. It's the same thing with everything, but there has to be the will. Now, what I would say to that is, if somebody doesn't have the will, you just try. And like how you said is, if they're not looking you in the eye or they're all like just like I don't care, then you kind of have to let it go because there's nothing else you can do after. You only can try so much. And if you feel that you tried your best, then you just tell them, if you ever need me, then you just let me know. Ronnie, what do you think from your experiences? I mean, that's mine.
I mean, I guess that phrase you guys both brought up about just telling someone to just get over it. That, like, that's a powerful phrase where you can take it two ways. You can either be bitter or better. And how I can get over it, right? Because you can get over it in a positive way and be like, okay, and because I'm a Christian, I ask myself, okay, God, what you trying to teach me in this moment right now? Why am I sad? Why am I angry? Why am I anxious? Anything like that. I always ask all that stuff. But you can take it in and be bitter and use anger to push you through. Like, that's something I used to do. I would just use anger to push me through the moment and just be like, you know what? Forget it. I'm going to move on, and I'm going to kind of like what Travis mentioned. Like, I'm going to come back. I'm going to come back better, and I'm going to smoke you. You know what I mean? I've actually used that same phrase. Like, yeah, I'm going to come back, and I'm going to smoke you. Once I learn how to do this a whole lot better, you're nothing to me. But after a while, I was like, you know what? That just made me a little more angry. And another friend, I forgot who, brought up the whole phrase of, okay, God, what you trying to teach me? And then from then, I really was like, wow, okay, that's a better light to look at from that perspective, instead of using anger to push me through that hard time.
Yeah,
that was it. Yeah.
that makes sense. You know, it's like I said. You know, the bad is the kind, right? It truly is a fuel. It's like the dopamine. You like that rush of being in control, not letting anybody take you down. Once again, human nature is a defense mechanism, I believe. You know, but here's the thing, like, you gotta know how to channel it. You know, you gotta know how to channel it in a positive way. You can use anger. You know, like I said, I'm a Christian myself. The Bible does say, be angry, but sin not. You know, you can feel the feeling. You can process the feeling. Like in anything, once you use that to hurt someone else or to hurt yourself, then it becomes wrong. You know, like, if you're not ready to listen to somebody, I say don't do it. Don't do it. Because you can do more damage than good. You know, like, you gotta understand, right? Like I told Travis, you may use this analogy. Some people are vines. Some people are trees. Some people grow real fast. They spread more fast. Some people are trees, take 30 years. Take to their deathbed to learn something. But who gonna be with them? Who gonna be with the tree grows? That's the good. That's the good. Who will be that good to be with the tree guys? Prune them, water them, feed them, encourage them. Easy for say yeah. But when they go through the fire and you see them, and you see them burning, and then you cannot be with them at the same time, you have to let them know. You cannot let them fall. And you cannot waver off quitting, quitting is worse than just denying.
That's true. That is true.
Because quitting, they may go halfway there, but you never go a little bit more, and they won't fall back. Is that your problem? No. But we're talking about good and bad. Are we good? Are we that good? Or are we half good? And like you said, when the going get tough, you can use that same competitiveness for good.
Sorry for all the additional sound effects we're having here.
You know, you say anger drove me. I could do anything. I can compete in anger. We can compete in good. Same thing. I'm not going to let this negative reaction stop me from helping my friend, my family. I'm not going to let this guy who's telling me F you in the face when I'm trying to be there for him stop me. I turn around the good and the bad and make good. And the same mana, the same power that drove me to prove you wrong, just because because you did bad for me, you do the same with good. No, and you stand that gap for your friend or your family. Right? We always say man up when somebody pushes us around. Well, man up when somebody is pushing you down as well. With the same feeling you put towards good. And that takes practice.
Takes a lot of practice.
Takes a lot of practice.
That takes patience.
That's why, there's the saying, right? All talk, no action. We use that as a term where somebody would push us around. We scrap them back in the day. Us you probably scrapped a lot of guys. We probably won, we probably lost. But that same thing, we can do the same thing with good and say, nah, but enough. Enough, what's wrong? Share yourself. You don't understand. I like. You can use that same competitiveness that you would use to try to scrap somebody. Of course, kind of lower the trash can. And use that same competitiveness for good as well.
That is true.
And the outcome better, It is better. It is better to see your friend or family who was down in the dumps, angry, depressed, get out of that, and he or she will help someone else.
And they can because they went through that
Yep.
same situation.
Yep. And they better for it because they can tell the person how so-and-so helped me, God or a person, depending what, they believe in, help them get through it, if that makes sense.
The hardest part going to be is to find out what's that little button you can press on that person to trigger them, because a lot of people will say I'm okay, but in reality they're just telling you that to just be like, hey, I heard enough, I'm done. A lot of people will do that. The trick is finding out that little piece and it's going to be a tiny little button to trigger on whatever it is to get it, because mentally it's gonna drain you. You know what I mean? Like, if something triggers in your brain to go and you're just like, I don't know what the hell is going on, it's going to be really, really, really hard. I mean, I don't know the depression part, but I definitely know anxiety. Now, I never had it, but to learn how to deal with it was the hardest part. I mean, granted, it comes and goes, but thanks to Nate or Ronnie and my other friends, it all worked out. But to do it, you have to have that will. That person has to be willing to take it. At the same time, you want to be. It's like a military warfare with one person's mind, which is going to be like odds of like 1,000 to 1, and you're in the gutters trying to fight this thing to help them, and you're trying to figure out, okay, what is this? What is the passcode to the nuclear arsenal that this person has, so we can disarm the bomb? And it's not going to be easy. But looking at certain trademarks of it, you can find out triggers, like what it was. Why is somebody so aggressive? It was probably due to some sort of a trauma or some kind of like attack. I wouldn't say attack, or maybe like what you call it when people try to almost like bullying. You know what I mean? Like, or if you got disciplined or
Recognize?
antagonize, yes. Or like, yeah, when somebody picked on you or yeah, antagonizing. Like, if they just they just teamed up on you. And every kid will take it different, of course. But looking at that stemming from it, like, I remember I used to get picked on by a lot of people. And as I got older, I'm figuring out now why I wanted to do certain things to other people and be like, yeah, well, this guy thinks he's whatever. Come my house. We go find out what's going on. You know what I mean? And then knowing that they couldn't do anything or they weren't very skilled, I would just have fun. Not saying that's great. Like, it felt great at that time, but I would do it. But I think at the same time, I'm looking at it. It did humble that person, if that makes sense. I mean, Ronnie kind of used to do some pretty funny things when we was younger, and he mellowed out after a while. But knowing what can come with it opens up your eyes. But like I said, going back to the part is looking at what the people do that's bad. Why do they steal? Or why do they always want to fight somebody? Or why are they going out to look to fight at somebody? Why are they just getting so drunk? What are they trying to hide? When you see somebody starting to abuse things or have that tendencies that always fall in line, there's something that was missing that traumatized them. Now, it's going to come to that person's will, but at least if you have the knowledge of what it kind of comes with, at least you kind of know what possibly was the trauma to it. That makes total sense, right? Like, think about it. I mean, we're not saying we grew up in a super nuts area or anything, but if you look at the traumas of what it was, why are you so more defensive or aggressive? Because if we didn't do it, you'd get beaten up, you'd get your stuff taken away, or, you know what I mean? They would take all your stuff. So you had to kind of put up a wall or have some kind of defense, or these guys would just stampede through you. Like I'm just throwing there. So as you got older, you just always was on like okay, I gotta watch this person, and it's a great thing to have, because you know what, people are still gonna do bad to you, but you have to be aware of it. But at least if you're conscious of what's going on, at least you can kind of, I wouldn't say you can avoid it all, but you can definitely be more aware of the situation and get yourself either out of it fast enough or just never put yourself in that situation. And it all comes down to the good and bad of people, but you have to be very conscious of it. It's not like, oh, look at that homeless guy that's just coming over here and just throwing trash all over the place and just demoing it. There was probably something that went on. Granted, if you do too much drugs and your brain is fried, you only can try to help so much. I mean, it's factual. I mean, but there's a certain point of a limit to where you can help.
Yeah, you can only, like you said, right, lead the horse to the water. You know, it's up to them to change. That's of course, you don't want to put yourself in regressing back to your old ways too, your bad ways, by letting someone that you trying to help do that to you. Like, sorry, once again, like, if you're not ready to do it, stop. Don't give people false hope and try to listen. If you know deep down inside that you cannot help them, you tell them you cannot help them, but you still can be there for them. But try not to take on more than you can handle, because you get your own too already. You get your own problems that you gotta deal with. You get your own bad you gotta try to get rid of. Like, once again, I'm not religious. I am religious, but I'm not trying to preach to anybody. But I am a Christian. So for me, what I do is I give it to God and ask God for help. Ask Jesus to help me. Once again, I'm not being religious. It's up to whatever you want to be. But for me, that's where I get my clarity, and I get my compassion to try to help and listen to people the best way I can. And I believe people see that too in sincerity. Sometimes saying nothing is a lot, but just being there.
That's definitely true.
Just being there while a guy talk, let people talk. That's the problem nowadays. I grew up in a society where if you talk too much, you unfag. You cry, you whine, you unfag. Anything to show any type of weakness or emotion, you unfag. But that's the wrong way. That you grow up bitter and angry. You scrap everybody. But all you have to do is just let them out for 1 minute and then pow. Like what Travis is absolutely right. We still gotta be tough. We still gotta be assertive. We still gotta push. Yeah. We still gotta be competitive and have the drive and have a thick skin. Correct. But we should also help and be an outlet for our brothers and sisters. This is what I'm trying to say. Also,
Definite.
let them speak. Let them tell their problems. Yeah. If they're cycling and they don't get better, they come with you the same thing over and over and over, and no matter what you tell them, they don't listen. You know the cycle of that. But some people just want to talk, right? So you gotta the talker also gotta be aware that the listener can only listen to so much as well. So it goes both ways, yeah. It goes both ways. So for me, it's with the good and the bad topic that we're talking about is, I feel that good will always prevail. It has to prevail. We have to be stronger to prevail over it. If that makes sense.
Total sense.
To help people. We have to help people. We have to help our brothers and sisters. We have to listen. Not everybody gets $300 an hour for doctor and therapist. No need drugs. No need. Some people may have difference. They may need drugs. But most
medication.
People,
we'll say medication.
Medication. But most people, they don't. So for me, if you, the positive hour, like my friend named this podcast, practice that. Put yourself in situations to try and do good and listen to your friends. Go for a little while, go back. And they see your tolerance. They see how, it's like training. You go box, then you go take on break, right? Every round you go on break. Sometimes taking that break is necessary as well. So,
true.
Yeah, that's how I see it. Good. You have to do your best to have good shine over the evil part of your personality or yourself. But we can't do it alone. That's for sure. My opinion.
I agree. A lot of people, I think, I can do them, or they try to cope with it themselves without, like you said, pay a therapist or talk to somebody. Not everybody has $300 an hour to do it, but having a friend there will help gain a lot more clarity, especially somebody on the outside looking in. If people don't have that, that's why they have hotlines you can call. Granted, that's not a friend that grew up with you, but at least it's something that you can let it out. And I think letting that pieces out will help you with whatever problems you're dealing with, especially if you can get it out and you're open to hearing other people's opinions about what they think you should or should do or shouldn't do, or how this other person that you're or whatever problems you're having is thinking, or how they would look at it, if that makes sense, I hope.
Oh yeah.
Ronnie, what do you think?
I totally agree.
Nothing else that was really going on.
I know.
Bring.
You pretty much covered it all. So.
Yeah, I think it's been covered.
Oh yeah, nothing that you other things that you went through, or other friends that went through that was like a negative thing that you could use. Now you see why it was so negative. For instance, any of that stuff. Well, I think we pretty much covered on our very first podcast. It probably wasn't the greatest, but we will get better, and we're gonna come with other content. We just want to come with something that was talking about good and bad to start it off with something, and try to give you guys an insight of what we think is how you should turn negative things into positive things, or why we had negative things. But yeah,
strive for good. my
Try
brothers
try
and
your
sisters.
best, and then
Strive for good. Strive for good.
we try to be as positive as we can,
It's a blessing.
and things hopefully can get better. We infect one, hopefully that one can do another, and it just keeps going down the line. But thank you everybody for listening or sitting through this if you did. And we'll be coming with other content in probably like 2 weeks or so. And we just want to say thanks for the positive hour.
Yeah.
Hello.